Hello. I'd like to welcome everyone who's joined us from Canada, the United States, South America, and Israel. We obviously are living through a very difficult and challenging moment for the world, and obviously most of all for the people of Ukraine. And we can feel a great deal of pride that only one country in the world has put a fully equipped field hospital inside Ukraine, and that's Israel. And Israel asked Sheba Medical Center to lead that mission. So I want to introduce someone that I'm proud to call a friend. Yoel Har-Evan is the director of the International Division and Resource Development of Sheba Medical Center, which covers many aspects of Sheba, including he's deeply involved in what they're doing in the Gulf with the Abraham Accords, which we can do as a whole separate webinar one day. All the patients that Sheba treats from outside Israel, the activity they have in other countries, and all humanitarian missions, of which Sheba does quite a few, another topic we can do an entire webinar on. Yoel served in the IDF for 28 years. He started out as a frontline combat nurse and went rapidly through the ranks through all levels of command to reach the position of assistant to the Surgeon General of the IDF, who is the Surgeon General of Israel. And he had retired from the Army with the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. Yoel earned a BA in nursing from Hebrew University, Hadassah School of Nursing in Jerusalem, and a Master of Health Administration from Ben Gurion University of the Negev, a Master of Neuroscience degree from Tel Aviv University, and he just completed his PhD in Business Administration from Ben Gurion University. His research focused on studying the performance and outcomes of large health management systems, well suited to running the largest medical center in the Middle East and one of the largest in the world, and developing models for delivering healthcare in particular. He also did research on the topic of disaster medicine and humanitarian medicine. Again, that leaves him very well prepared for what he's doing now. Throughout his long and distinguished Army career in the IDF, he treated many injured and wounded combatants on the field, as well as on numerous IDF humanitarian relief missions, including field hospitals into the Rwandan Civil War and the Balkan Civil War, the field hospital that was set up to treat the earthquake victims in India, and as deputy commander of the IDF field hospital established to treat the earthquake victims in Nepal. And finally, most important, Yoel is married to Anat and is father to 4 beautiful children, Daniel, Nite, Noya, and Eliana. So Anat must have been very happy, Yoel, when you retired from the IDF. You were no longer going to be sent into combat zones as part of a field hospital, and yet Israel decided to send its first civilian field hospital into Ukraine. So let me ask you, first of all, how did Anat feel about it, and how did you feel about it?
You know, first, Brian, good evening from Mostitska, Ukraine, to you and to all the audience, Sheba friends around the globe. Thank you very much for the initiative and the leadership that shown to create this wonderful opportunity, talking with you guys live from Ukraine. It's a tough question. Anat knows me, and I hope by now she knows me, and she knows that such a mission, she cannot stop me. Although it was very clear and loud that she is unhappy that I'm leaving, she accepted that I need to lead this mission, and as always, send me with her love, blessing, and warm regards to come back very, very soon home.
Nice. So tell me, do you have a family history, your own personal family history in Ukraine?
Yes, actually, yeah. My mom was born here, not so far from the point that we are set the field hospital. Actually, the 150 kilometers southern to where are we now. For those of you who are not where are we right now, I can say that the hospital is located in a small town called Mostitska, on the main route coming from Lvov, toward Krakow. Lviv is about 60 kilometers eastern to the point that I'm sitting right now, and the border is about 14 kilometers to the west from here. So my mom was born here in the Carpathian Mountains. It's about 150 kilometers here from here. And my grandma was born here. And most of my family is coming from this particular area in Ukraine.
So was that emotional for you? What were the feelings about coming back to the region where your family came from?
I will tell you a secret, Brian.
There are a lot of people listening.
Oh boy. When I thought that I need to go to this mission, I called my mom. And I told her that I'm going to lead this mission to Ukraine. Her first reaction was that I'm not letting you go to this mission. So I told my mom, I'm going to be 51 in 2 weeks. You cannot stop me. And she said, yes, you're right, but I never stopped you going to those missions around the globe. You went to Africa, to India, to Nepal, to Kosovo. I never stopped you going for those missions. I'm asking you, please don't go. And she added that if grandma was alive, she will obey you not to go. And I told her that I'm going there with my troopers because of her and because of grandma and because what the family has go through the Holocaust. And if I can change a little bit the life of the people, like nobody changed or approached my grandparents and grandparents when they were here 75 years ago, I need to do it. And I'm going in front of the camp, leading this mission because of her and because of my grandma and because of my roots in this area.
That's amazing, Yoel. That's amazing. Kol kavod. That's a very powerful statement to be in the name of your ancestors. So many of us came there. I know many people watching are anxious to hear us talk about the field hospital, and we will, but I can't, you having said that, I know you made a special trip just the other day to a side visit to, there was Amy, if we could put up the photos, there's the ruins of a Jewish cemetery in Mostiska. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
We're looking at an old, looks like an old headstone and a new marker, the photos that you put on Facebook.
Yeah, so the area is completely destroyed. You cannot tell that it's a Jewish cemetery. But the mayor of Mostitska, she's a great lady, also with Jewish roots, told us that before the war, the Mostitska area was full with Jews. About 4,000 people used to live in this village. And most of them were killed, murdered, and slaughtered in 43 by the German Nazis and their collaborators from this area. So I thought that an Israeli delegation is coming to this area, need to discover, I need to say Kaddish there.
Amazing, amazing. And you did it in the name of so many of us who would like to be there for that. So let's switch to the mission. And which, by the way, what you're saying in that complicated history, Jews for hundreds of years had a very difficult history. I also had, my grandmother was fled from Zhytomyr, not very far from where you are, was carried out as a toddler because of a pogrom, which makes Israel's return as the only country coming with a field hospital all the more remarkable. So Israel prepped, maybe we could show some of these setup slides. Israel prepped 100 tons of supplies that you oversaw that came in. You sent a fully equipped a hospital, every aspect of a hospital. Tell me about that.
Yeah, you can see here the equipment repair. When we packed it in at Sheba warehouses just before ship them to the airport. But the boxes are not really telling you the story. The story is that only one country, as a state, extended a hand and sent more than 70 troopers from all over Israel. All the hospitals have representative here in this delegation. The HMOs have a representative here. Even Magen David Adom has a representative in this delegation. And the spirit of the Jewish people and the spirit of Israel cannot be recognized by shipment of tons of equipment. First, it needs to be represented by the heart of the people who went to this mission in the name of the state of Israel or for the state of Israel, but also as a human beings and the health providers and as Jews who know exactly and don't forget what happened here only 70, 75 years ago, but understand that we have a different role in this world.
Amazing. And so you brought a large team, and what percent of them actually speak Ukrainian?
So, Brian, sorry, there is a sirens right now. Usually, most of the people need to run to the shelter. Because it's late in the night, most of the people already had supper and here they are in the building. I'm going to stay here with you, continue the broadcast, although there is sirens outside.
All right, Yoel, but I don't want to compromise your safety in any way. So if at any moment you feel your safety is more, please pay attention to that. Let me ask you, while I have you along those lines, when the mission was originally proposed, Western Ukraine it felt quite safe. But we've seen these missiles to Lvov recently. What is your evaluation of the safety of the physical plant of Mostishka?
So, as I told you, during the day, usually when we have sirens, everyone needs to run to the shelter in the next building, which is the school that the mayor of Mostishka allows us to operate from this school. And we are running to this basement and waiting 15 minutes to have notice that we can go out. There are also other security levels that took care by the state of Israel, by Prime Minister. If it was a daylight, I was traveling with you outside the camp and showing you that the Russians asked us to mark the tents in several marking that planes or pilots that flying over will recognize that this is a medical facility. But we cannot account only on the Russians. We brought some security from Israel. We have evacuation cars that waiting outside the gate, ready to go with helmets and bulletproof gear. And you need to know that this oblast, it's a huge oblast. It's about 150 kilometers, over 150 kilometers. They are not as accurate as the Israeli system that can pinpoint where the missile is going to fall. Usually, and in the last few days, even though there are sirens, we didn't hear any explosion in our neighborhood. Mainly they are attacking the Lviv area and still attacking only what they promise, that it's still military targets and not civilian targets.
Understood. So as soon as you opened the hospital, you got flooded with patients. Were you surprised by how many people came in? And it doesn't stop, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I was. This is the crowd. This is the our delegation in the morning briefing. But yeah, here are they. They are coming and coming and coming, and it's a non-stop. From the first day, it increased from 40 to 160, to 140, under 70. And last Shabbat, we saw 170 patients from 8 in the morning until 8 in the night. We have some people that hospitalized already. The total number is 26 people that been hospitalized in our premises in the last 5 days. And right now, we have 6 of them still staying with us in our hospital.
So we just saw a photo, and I want to go back to it. As I said, you're a father of 4. I know you have a whole pediatrics department and a pediatric tent. I have found it as a father, I found it personally difficult to see the photos of the children. What has it been like as a father to see these children coming in for treatment?
You know, children are always touching us in a different point of our soul. And seeing suffering kids is always a very difficult mission to anyone. This kid, for example, that you see here, her name is Zlata. And Zlata was operated in Israel a few years ago. She had kidney problems, and a specialist from Israel operated her in Israel. Now she has a problem with the nephrostome. Something is not working. And they drove 48 hours from Donetsk. They're originally from Donetsk, and they drove 48 hours from Donetsk through all the barriers to see us, because they've heard that the Israeli hospital is settled in Mostitska, and they cherish and admire the Israeli medical system because she was operated in Israel, and they came all alone to see our physician, and they are still staying with us until she will feel much better.
So what is the mix of patients you have that are from refugees, from internal refugees from other parts of Ukraine versus local people from the oblast, the state that you're in, the province you're in?
Yeah, it's a mixture of people, and you know, I just came from our daily briefing with the team, and I told my team, you know, now we are entering the second week of our activity, and it's legitimate to ask, why are we here? And I think everyone needs to give himself an answer, as a person, as a human being, as a health provider, as a Jewish person. But I can give you my answer. And my answer is that in a very limited resources that the state of Israel sent us, we can do so many good to so many people. So it's not needed a lot. You don't need to do heroic operations. You don't need to, you know, save the world. You just need to give some dignity, humanity, and warm heart to the others. Sometimes it's enough. Sometimes, as it was 2 days ago, at the end of the day, a young old babushka went home, and one of the nurses gave her a bag full with drugs, and she refused to take this bag with drugs. And the nurse asked her why, and she told the nurse that this bag is a value of 1 year of her pension, and she cannot offer to pay 1 year of her pension just for medication. And the nurse said, "No, babushka, it's not for you to pay. It's free. It's for you. That you will be home safe with the drugs, because she cannot afford to buy those drugs." And this is one simple story out of many stories that I can sit here and talk until tomorrow, how with a very limited resources that we brought with us, we can bring a light to 1 person, 100 person, 1,000 persons' life. Doesn't matter if they are refugees or not, if they are from the oblast or not. It doesn't matter for us.
Amazing, really amazing. You know, Just as you could never tell the stories of the 30,000 people lost at Babi Yar, you'll never be able to tell all the stories of the people you're helping and lives you're saving in this operation. While I'm asking, by the way, if you have questions you want me to ask Yoel, there's a Q&A button you can click and type in your questions, and I'll go through them. So has there been any patient or family or thing that you've seen that's particularly affected you?
Actually, yes. In a couple of in the last days, we hospitalized here an infant, a baby, 7 month old, who came to us with his mom with severe anemia. At the time, we thought he might have some cancer, but the testing came very positive. He doesn't have cancer, but still, he was very, very pale, very weak. He barely can cry. His mom barely can breastfeed him. He barely can move. At one time, I came into the room, and the mom left him on the bed, and I, with the instinct, I jumped to put my hand because the bed is a little bit higher, and one of the nurses said, "Don't worry, he cannot move. He's so weak, he cannot move. Don't worry, he won't fall down from the bed." There is a time yesterday that we thought we might give him some blood infusion from one of the, what it's called, fresh blood donation from one of the team that has the O+. And then we called our hemophilia and blood specialists in Israel. And they didn't recommend to give him a fresh blood because, automatically from a person, and it needs to be controlled because he's too small, and they were too afraid that vast amount of fresh blood may cause him much troubles.
So you mean a direct connection from the arm of a donor to the arm of the child? Wow.
We did it several times in previous delegations. I must be honest, it's never been done from an adult person to a child, to a 7-month-old baby. And therefore, we did not do it this time. It was too risky because he definitely need blood, but he needed in a controlled measurement and not directly from an adult person. So fortunate enough, we was able to evacuate him yesterday night to Poland. And when we did a review and we asked them, he arrived to a very good hematology center in Warsaw. And I hope they can give him the best medicine that they can do and save this baby.
Wow. You bring up something that I wanted to ask you about, the Sheba Beyond equipment, which allows treatment virtually from doctors back in Ramat Gan. Have you been using that equipment? Are there doctors physically still in Tel Aviv that are participating?
Absolutely. Dalia Barkai, which you are familiar with, she is here with us. And we are inviting people on a daily basis, between 4 to 6 people every day, with already consultation with our nephrologist, hematologist, cancer physicians, genetics, all kind of diagnoses that we need to ask back. Of course, the kid yesterday, it works perfectly. Even the other technicians and other capabilities like the ultrasound, the heart echo can be broadcast to Israel and reviewed again by our specialists in Tel Aviv.
So while Sheba has the largest number of staff, as you said, you have a team drawn from across Israel. Was it difficult to form a cohesive team? Are they operating as a team?
It took us a few days before going to this mission to train together, to learn the language. It's a language that you need to bring everyone on the same page of the book. The advantage was that we had enough time to train ourselves before the mission went on air. And we take this time to sit together and build this language, which is imminent and crucial in those missions.
And I want to ask you, this is new information as of the last hour, but a member of your team, we also forget we're in the middle of a global pandemic that is still quite serious. You've had a member of your team diagnosed with COVID.
Yes, this afternoon, one of our physicians actually is a psychiatrist that we brought with us. He got COVID, and now is isolated in one of the rooms that we set here in the next building for staff isolation, and he will stay in the few days isolated. But we keep connecting through Zoom, so he will be able to examine people via telemedicine.
And what is your concern about COVID spreading to the rest of the staff?
You know, I came here from the evening meeting. Every evening we have a meeting, and at the end of the meeting, everyone was checked for COVID, and we are going to check ourselves every second day to see that it's not spread among the staff.
What's been the biggest surprise for you so far?
The brotherhood of the team. They are coming from different hospitals all around Israel. We have Christians, Muslims, nurses, physicians. I was expected that it will take longer, and I'm very surprised that it took us a few hours to bond and to connect to each other like we work many, many years together.
You know, I'll tell everybody there's a video on American Friends of Sheba's YouTube channel of an Arab-Israeli pharmacist who's working in the lab there. And it's really, if you stop and think about the moment we're living in, an Arab-Israeli pharmacist traveled with an Israeli field hospital into Ukraine to provide aid. And he speaks about his partner, Tzvika, who's working in the lab with him. How are the, is that Elhanan?
Elhanan.
So Elhanan Bar-On, who is the director of Israel's Disaster Humanitarian Relief Center at Sheba, who himself, we could do a whole webinar, maybe we will one day, and he's heading to Haiti in the next month to a relief mission for a bad accident with burns that took place. Elhanan, one day we'd like to introduce you to everybody. Hello, Elhanan.
Hi.
So Elhanan, since you're here and since you, do you think now that your mask is down, do you think the case of COVID will affect your team?
No, I think we'll deal with it in an orderly way, and whoever has to be in isolation will be in isolation, and we've got plenty of people to continue the mission. Everything will be okay.
So Elhanan, you've led many missions abroad, humanitarian missions, and I believe you were, when you served in the IDF, that you've seen some challenging situations. What's unique, or what should our audience know about this situation?
Well, it's a unique situation in many ways. Number one, we're in a war zone. We basically haven't deployed to war zone, although we're not in the fighting area. Number two, the whole refugee situation here is a very different type of refugee situation from what we've seen in other places, like when Yoel was in Kosovo and in Rwanda, and what I saw in Lesbos in Greece. These are people who they are refugees. They're displaced by definition, but they're not really refugees like we're used to seeing. First of all, they all intend to go back to their home. They're not looking for a new life in the new world. They're basically in good condition, and many of them, the ones across the border, have relatives all over Europe where they're going to join them. Here, it's a mixed population. We're treating the local population, but there are a considerable number of people who have fled from the areas of fighting and have come to the western part of Ukraine. So we do hear some very hair-raising and heart-moving stories from the people we're treating.
Have you seen soldiers from either side of the conflict?
We don't see any injuries. All the injuries go to the military hospitals, basically, not even to the civilian hospitals in Ukraine. I'm also in contact with there's a big American NGO who's deployed in Lvov, and they're not seeing soldiers either, even though there were some bombings in Lvov. Seeing routine medicine from the refugees and from the local population, similar to us. So that's the Ukrainians' way of they have the way they treat their patients and their soldiers, and of course it's their business.
What was announced, Yoel?
Something staff issue.
Okay. So about half your staff speak Ukrainian. I assume these are people either who emigrated to Israel from Ukraine or their parents did. What is it like for them emotionally to come back to Ukraine and serve?
I think for everyone, even Elhanan has his personal story about his mom. I don't think that there is a special attitude or overwhelmed for those who were born in this place. Maybe one person, Michael.
And Costa. And some of the people
I think
say, I'm coming to help my country. Some
Yes,
of them are
definitely.
saying, I'm coming to help my country,
It's always a personal angle in the story, as always. And but I cannot tell you, for those who doesn't have family history or stories, that it was very hard to deploy them or to convince them. Actually, we need to say to a lot of people, not this time, maybe next time. So the number of volunteers among the staff at Sheba and outside of Sheba was really heartwarming.
Beautiful. We do get inquiries about people coming. Do you have the ability to absorb medical volunteers from abroad?
Right now, it's a little bit complicated to enter Ukraine, especially for medical personnel who want to operate here because of the regulations and the insurance. We were deployed here and sent by the state of Israel, which take care of everything that need to be taken care regarding malpractice and registration and the insurance. So right now, I think it's a little bit complicated for outside volunteers to come.
Elhanan, what is your own family history with Ukraine?
My mother was born not far from where we are. She had passed away. She had a very, very dramatic Holocaust story.
So are Ukrainians surprised to see an Israeli hospital?
I don't think they're surprised, Elhanan. I don't think
think
surprise is
I think
right.
they're overwhelmed in the positive way. They didn't believe when we came here initially in the first day and told them sort of about the hospital. I really don't think they could imagine what this place is going to look like. And I'll tell you more than that. I couldn't imagine what this place is going to look like. This is what we've put up here through the foresight of Professor Kreis and everybody who was involved. We aimed very high, and I think we achieved higher. I think we initially we thought in terms of like a small clinic, then we saw it bigger. I mean, if you see the lab we put here, I think it's unprecedented in the history of the field hospitals in the world. It's really an amazing place.
So much more than in your own past history with field hospitals.
Well, you know, there are things which are innovative, just because they are innovative. I mean, our whole beyond what we call, which is our telemedicine setup. If this had happened 3 years ago, it wouldn't be here because it wasn't in existence. We have to say thank you to COVID for that. But for instance, we brought a simulation, part of our simulation center, because one of the things we're doing here, this is a central theme in what we're doing, is training local population. Local medical staff, medical teams. So we brought our, elements of our simulation. We brought a few mannequins, and we're having orderly courses, and we're having clinical courses with people. I mean, they sit with us. So I think because this is not a disaster situation in which, this is not Haiti, right, where we were all buried in the operating room from day to night. This is a different situation. It's a much calmer situation, but that enables us to deal with capacity building, which is not less important than treating the acute crisis.
It's amazing. So I saw a photo of doctors, a mannequin, and it looked like they were maybe intubating. What kind of procedures are you training the Ukrainian physicians on?
ATLS, which is advanced trauma life support, ACLS, which is advanced cardiac life support, and we also taper it to, it sort of starts off with that, which is, these are basically structured courses, but we take it to wherever they want to take it.
And you made the decision to operate this hospital at Western and Israeli standards. I assume everything from infection control. Has that been difficult to maintain under the circumstances?
I think the main problem right now is communication. We try to bring the standard of Sheba regarding medical files, medical record, the IT, the connection between all systems, and we are insisting that it will work. Right now, we have some difficulties in some part of the day to keep the line clear and busy. So rather than that, I cannot see any obstacle or disadvantage that will stop us to bring Sheba standards to this area.
Amazing. And what would these people have done if you hadn't been there? Where would they have gone?
I will say a tough thing. Most probably nowhere.
Elhanan, I saw a photo of you putting a cast on the arm of a young man. What happened to him? How did he break his arm or elbow?
In soccer.
Soccer. Did you sign his cast? Did you put your name? So Yoel, knowing what you did a lot of advanced preparation and thinking and planning, knowing what you know now on the ground, is there anything you would do differently in the planning?
In the planning, maybe has some more or have some more medical information regarding the exact need. Because I think although Elhanan and Elhanan is here already almost 3 weeks, arriving here March 7th, and as the rapid assessment one-man show, and he gave us a tremendous important information ahead of our arriving. Still, I think we need to insist to bring some more specialties that we are lacking now, but fortunately now we have the opportunity to have telemedicine. And So I think maybe staffing, doing better staffing with the specialist.
Well, you brought a psychiatrist. That seems, go ahead.
Actually, the primary care physicians, because we are a primary care, we're doing a lot of primary care work, and we are actually reinforcing the incoming team with primary care physicians, which is important.
And I was amazed to see, Elhanan, a photo of what I assume are two radiologists looking at X-ray film out in the sun, holding it up to the light. You have that kind of equipment there?
It's doctors. These are X-rays which they bring. Our X-rays are of course digital, but they bring in X-rays. They still have X-rays on place, and we actually went to the local hospital and found one of these light boxes, which we put on. Yeah, that's
It's an MRI scan.
an MRI scan actually. But
So these are films the patients brought with them?
yes.
And they're being read by radiologists?
They're being read by physicians. We don't
Amazing.
have radiologists with us because we think radiology is the first thing which can be done online.
True.
So we think that's a waste of a place on the plate.
Good point. And what about power, water, communications? How are the conditions okay for the team?
Yeah, I think most of the logistics are taken care extremely well. We have running water. We have showers with very hot waters during the day and the evening. The food is good as well. Part of it is coming from a kosher Chabad meal services in Lviv. The rest of the vegetables here are tasty, so plenty of food. We have showers, we have bags to put our head at the end of the day, and I think it's basic, but we don't need more.
And do you test all the patients for COVID?
No, basically we are not testing all patients for COVID, only those who are hospitalized and only those who are as symptoms upon entering to our premises.
And I saw that the Director General of Sheba Medical Center, Professor Kreis, came in for Shabbat. Is he still there?
No, he left yesterday. Actually, he went to see his father's town for the first time on his life. So he took the advantage that he's flying here. And he went to Poland and went to see the place that his late father grew and was the exile during the Holocaust.
You know, I hope somebody writes a book about all this at some point. It's really, there's so many remarkable aspects to what's happening here. Is there anything our audience should know about that I haven't asked either of you about, or that you want to tell us?
No, maybe we can take some question from the audience.
I've been asking, actually, I've been mixing them in as we went. Another question we got, are you seeing or hearing about nutrition issues or hypothermia among the pediatric population?
When I came here first, the weather's changed now. The weather is very reasonable now. When I came, the lines were huge, and the weather was cold. It was snow covered. So we were not we. I mean, the other NGOs were. I was just in the scout mission, but the people I met had seen some frostbite, had seen some hypothermia in kids. But that's over now. It's not relevant now. I think it is important to say to the audience that this event here is another landmark for us. I don't know who said that. That this is really the first time that the state of Israel is deploying a civilian field hospital. And the fact that Sheba managed to put this together and lead this. And, we have fantastic partners from all medical institutions in Israel, but the core is the Center for Disaster Medicine and Humanitarian Response in Sheba, which we've been putting up for the past 5 years, and we'll continue advancing it. And the fact that we managed to convince the Israeli government, let us lead this thing and put together a civilian field hospital, I think is a landmark in the history of Israeli aid overseas.
I'm just going to follow Elhanan's words. When we sat with Itzik last Shabbat and spent some time talking with him, we decided that for the future missions, this hospital is going to be called the Jewish People Field Hospital. It won't be the Israeli, it won't be Sheba. We are going to call this hospital the Jewish People Field Hospital, and we're going to enlarge it and build it, the capacity, the way we should think it should be. And it's going to be a worldwide facility that can be sent all over by the Jewish people, coordinated by Sheba.
Beautiful, beautiful. How long do you think, do you have a sense this war could drag on for a long time? What is the thought about how long this one will be maintained, this field hospital?
So right now the government stated that this hospital is going to deploy for 1 month, and if there is a need to stay longer, it's the decision of the State of Israel.
Got it. Wonderful. Well, I'm so grateful to both of you. And for those that would like to help, maybe Amy, if we can put up, there's a number of ways you can help do what they're doing. First of all, we have a Ukraine resource page at afsmc.org where we put up latest photos, videos, ways to help. You should be following us on social media, and please repost and share the content. We're going to be putting up more examples of the things we've spoken about here. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter. Tell your friends about Sheba. We are not well known across the world, unfortunately, as we should be, as one of the top 10 hospitals in the world. And you can make a gift to the Ukraine effort. If you can go to, if you're in Canada, you can go to the website for the Canadian Friends of Sheba, or if you're in the US, you can go to this web address, and you can make a gift that can be designated directly to the Ukraine effort. You can also make a gift that's designated directly to the Center for Disaster Medicine, which Elhanan runs under Yoel's supervision. So this is the place to go if you want to. The most important way you could help is through financial donations. Amy, if we can go back to Yoel and Elhanan, both of you are there I'm sure in the names of yourselves, of course, in the state of Israel, in the names of your own families who have ties to the region, but you're there in the names of Jewish people worldwide. And those of us who can't be there, who don't have the medical training, who don't have the experience, there are the hearts and minds and love of Jews around the world who are so proud of what the state of Israel is doing, what Sheba Medical Center is doing, and what you and your team of people is doing. So Toda Rabbah, thank you so much. You have beautiful hearts and healing hands, and we are so grateful to both of you, and please convey to your entire team. They are operating in these tents, and it's a 24/7 operation, but there are hundreds of thousands of people that wake up every morning thinking about you and what you're doing.
Thank you, Brian. On the behalf of the entire delegation, I want to thank you and the audience. We feel the power and the strengths, as I demonstrated when the President of the State of Israel called us just before Shabbat, that I thought that as the citizen number one in Israel, but also as the representative, the informal representative of the bigger Jewish nation or community, he should be proud of what we are doing here now. And as I approach and say to you and the audience, we know exactly and we cherish the support, the warmth. I got hundreds of emails and WhatsApps, and definitely each one of our delegation members got it also from his relative, from people he knows, from people he doesn't know around the globe that supporting us. We feel it, we cherish it, and we thank you very, very much for being with us this morning for you. And I hope personally to see some of you very, very soon, maybe in a couple of weeks.
So Darabah, please stay safe and healthy, and go get a good night's sleep. And we're praying for you. Thank you both very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elhanan. Thank you, Yoel.
Bye-bye.